Greetings, Wapplers from around the world. This is our monthly meetup. We have Wappler meetups the first Friday of every month at 1600 Netherlands time. You can find information about the meetups on the community section. All you have to do is search for meetups and announcements, and you can get all kinds of information in history. I would like to invite any Wapplers that are on the call or watch this video. If there's something that you'd like to present, or if there's something that you'd like to learn, please reach out to me on the forum. My handle is Mark1, and I might look forward to hearing from you. We've had a change in our agenda today. Our presenter fell ill with his entire family, unfortunately, and we're going to push that off until next month. But this month, Jim from Key West has stepped in, and he has a presentation on Cap Rover GitHub integration that he's going to share with us today. And I'm going to turn the meetup over to Jim and take it away.
Good morning, everybody. All right, make sure I get this done right. And can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. All right. I started in this Wappler world about a couple years ago now, and I came over from Dreamweaver, PHP, and all of that. And a lot of what I had was a shared HostGator site, and was dealing within that world, and the SSL and all of those things were taken care of and done. And so when I started doing this, it was quite a shock to the technology brain that I had actually put on pause for a few years when I stepped into a different career. And so when I came back over to do this, I inherited a site and found out that I didn't want to learn PHP all over again, and decided to learn JavaScript, and started that path and did that. And Wappler being the closest thing to the Dreamweaver world I knew, and spent a lot of time just redoing it and re-educating myself. And one of the things, with the help of the /hash guys and Sid over there, they introduced me to was CapRover. And what the CapRover does is it encapsulates the whole Docker situation, so that you can actually do a lot what we could do within a multi-server application and add new websites. And I did a lot of things to help some church, help some friends, and did some other things with just small websites, 4 or 5 pages, and to look at a droplet for each one of those and that kind of thing was just ridiculous in some ways. So I was looking for a source that I could do that, and CapRover did that for me. So here you see it's in the marketplace in DigitalOcean. Pretty simple. If you've done anything with DigitalOcean, all you do is you create the droplet, click the button, and it sets it all up for you. You follow the links and you follow through the operation. You pick your server just as you would any other aspect of it, and you get a pretty decent environment to work with, in that it's all set up for you. They do all of the app creations and what you get set up from there. On the other side, on the DigitalOcean side, it's just your standard servers. I also use Spaces for my images, and that. Going to host about 14,000 images right now. I've got transferred over there to what we're bringing up and going to show. So we end up getting into the system. I can go into DigitalOcean, and just by accessing the console, I can get into the droplet. And one of my early best friends was over on the CapRover site. They've got a pretty good support system. But this line here, where you change this out and you're able to go in and look, you can see what your system is. And then I could run a shell and I could actually see my files. You see it runs the old Unix world of the bin shell, and you can get in there and you can do your list of your files and do everything else. And how do I politely say, the old guy had quite a problem initially with Docker and the rest of them going, "Are my files really up there? And how did I get them there?" And all of those necessary things. And these two commands got me through that, and I've come quite comfortable with it. Once you set it up, you just log in, you get your normal login. You end up with an environment like this. And what they have is they have apps, and you're able to come in. And so these are two different websites. I have one database, MariaDB database, and I'm able to access that from multiple websites. And I'm hosting 4 different sites. And one of them is this is a CAN board, it's called, and it just allows me to track what I'm working on and put in what I need to look at and see and do. This is my Portainer. And so you just click on one of them. You can see what you've got. You come in and it's pretty simple. You end up with 3 tags, and you can configure the app with different scripts and different overrides and what you may need or may not need. Pretty simple. Don't have to go through all of that. I have my settings. You can enable force an HTTPS. That was the other thing that was the beauty, is I see a lot of on the board talking about, so this is just kind of a prototype site of what it is, but so you can go see what your website looks like, see where it's at. And one of the beauties, when you just click that and enable SSL, it kicks in the SSL, and certificates are put in by Let's Encrypt. And I don't have to do anything. I get a quarterly update that my SSL certificates have been updated, and I don't see anything else. I don't have to track anything down, make sure anything's updated, do any of that. Caprover and DigitalOcean take care of all those updates. So that was a real key component for me in doing this and looking at all of that. In the deployment, what I do is you get to see what you were updating, when you were things were sent out, what they were updating. You get to see your logs. It gives you any mistakes of what it is or didn't have. You've got a different set of different ways that you can get through to it and do that. I use this just force build. So this runs over to the Git branch. I tell it which branch I want, and I just hit force build, and it grabs that and pulls that up to the site. Loads all the Docker, loads everything into the Docker file, puts everything up there. You see, you've got a couple of different file configurations and formations that if you want to use, you can. But this way allows me to put it up. And all I do on the Wappler side is I just do the upload to the GitHub. And it just pushes it right from there, right up into, sits on Git. And this just, when a force build, it runs over to the repository, grabs the branch I want. And the next thing I know, I've got it updated up there. You can do a setup a webhook, so it will go through and get automatically into each one of them. And I'm sorry, it will automatically update it. So if you do a push on Wappler side, it automatically loads up there. I just felt more comfortable with one other step in between. You see here, you can get GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab, whatever you're used to, whatever you want to use, those types of things. So kind of adds an extra step to where Wappler's come in the last few months and how they're getting great with their resource managers and all that. But it gave me the opportunity 18 months ago to be able to get things up there and do those different things. And for me, the most important was I could see I could load, as I said, I had just load different sites and load different multi-shared environments where I could do that and see that. So any questions? It's pretty sweet. It's pretty neat and pretty easy from that end of it, especially if you're not doing a lot of large sites and that type of thing. I mean, I still can come into Wappler. Into DigitalOcean. I can see my graphs and I can see what's happening and where I'm using and how things are working. And you can start to see even with the different sites, what you're running for your usage and your memories and those types of things. So I blew up my disk storage the other day when I was trying to load a couple other sites and do some other testing and things, but we get to do that. The other thing that's come in a little handy is, and I loaded Portainer on there, so I could see the different services And I use this to delete the old images. And this is where you can see how much usage I had on the images. And so you can come back in and you can see what containers are running, what's not. So give you a little different example of what to do within that world. And educated me into more how to deal with the images. Started getting full in the early days and couldn't figure out what that was. And Portainer gave me that ability to come in and see what's going on and quickly be able to remove or look at images and do that. So you get to see what's running. You should see what their names are, what was created for them and how they're doing that, what's not working or what is. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple, and something that I've enjoyed working with and working in that world has gotten me through that. So that's what I got.
But, how long have you been using CapRover now?
16 months.
Cool. And
Is sorry, go on.
no, be my guest, John.
I was just going to ask, is CapRover self-hosted? I see it's open source. I've never used it. So
Yeah, no, this is the DigitalOcean marketplace. So I host it on DigitalOcean. So, and then I'm just connected. The DigitalOcean server sits on one side, and then I just update CapRover into the DigitalOcean server via GitHub. And so I hit upload and push the upload from Wappler to Git, and then GitHub, and that's where I use the force deployment, and that goes and grabs the under deployment when I'm ready to test whatever or produce whatever. Then I just click this and it grabs it from Git and sets it up there.
So the CapRover installation is on a droplet of its own.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Gotcha.
Yes. And that's and they literally, you just have to click the button. You don't have to do much anything else when you start to define the servers and everything else. Once you just click and you go, it takes you over and it walks you through, and you're in your standard created droplet world. But it knows now that it's going to take on all of that aspect of whatever CapRover needs. So
Nice.
it really was. It was, again, back to old man and not too many brain cells left to think about all that stuff. It was kind of, once I got into it, once I understood what it was doing and find those things, and they've got a pretty good support community and what they do, and I really haven't needed it, but I've been able to just search pretty much through this stuff. And like I said, once I found this and saw the old Unix commands to be able to get to my shell and see what was in there, that was pretty valuable and took a lot of the pressure off. And that and the SSL, that's the other thing. You don't have to think about the SSL, and you're running for all these, like I said, I do a handful of little nonprofit type things and throw up a web page, that kind of stuff, and information forms. But I've got one big project, and that's what a lot of my questions are on that. But that's how I got into it. So
What was your past experience using Unix?
oh, Mark, now you're going to make me show my age. I started with AT&T.
That's okay. Your secret is safe with me. Nobody will know.
Yeah. I started back with AT&T Unix back in the 80s, 90s, and just systems. Actually ran for the American Dental Association. They were delivering servers to their computers to their customers, to the dentists and that. So I installed those for 3 years when they were doing it. So that's how I got to do that. Prior to that, did NPM and a few other things back in those days. So
That's awesome. But does anybody have any other questions for Jim?
Yeah, I would just, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't done that much with Wappler recently. I did a few sites a while ago, and I do various other things, but it's very impressive. I suppose what worries me about this sort of thing, I'm a bit sort of old fashioned. I'm quite old as well. And, I still have PHP sites on a shared server, which I have had, for forever. And what worries me about this in a way, it seems so slick and the way it controls everything, but it's a bit like, I feel
You're breaking up.
Sorry, I feel I'm sort
You're
of
breaking up a bit, Tom.
How's that? Is that okay?
Oh, it's fine for me.
I'm hearing it too.
Oh, well, what I was thinking, what worries me in a way is that if so many of these things are automated, if something goes wrong, where do you look? In a way, with an old sort of PHP site, you can look at all the files on FTP, or you can fiddle around with your htaccess file, and you can sort of pretty quickly find something if something's missing or errors. It seems sort of, I look at the PHP error log, I can see it just seems what worries me about this is so much of it is automated. If something does go wrong, where do you find that sort of difficult to track down, or perhaps it doesn't go wrong? I don't know.
I don't have that. I'm in the Java Node.js world. And so I made that step over there.
Yeah, I probably should.
Yes,
That's primarily what I use.
I think I can probably kind of take a hit at what Tom is getting at. So fundamentally, I think with the whole cap over stuff, because I've been playing around it for a while too, and it's awesome. I think the whole concept is based on imaging, right? The Docker imaging. So in that regards, you wouldn't have a lot of problem trying to figure out like where to find stuff, because basically, you build off an image, and if it's a trusted image and whatever, you just like kind of layer your code or your application or your OS on top of that, and then you go from there. So it's pretty much the way I have been handling all of those stuff is, whatever code you push, you push it up to Git, something break, you revert, or you create like a hot fix or something, then push and update, So oftentimes with even cap over, you can have the ability to do some form of like smoke test where you put it like a staging environment, you test it out, have a bunch of people like, or send a bunch of bots to us, like, attack the application or whatever you're trying to do, if you're trying to break it to see, load, bottleneck, all that stuff. So it's kind of like in the Docker world. So it kind of like makes stuff more streamlined. So, if that answer any of your question in terms of like insecurities you have about it. So I use it. It's really powerful. It's great. And it's just a matter of your strategy, how you set up from your dev to your staging to your production and whatnot, and just like scanning your images to see for vulnerability. That's kind of like how I do it on my end. So, and then I think what Jim did, I think you're building the image straight from the GitHub. What I do, I build the image on the Docker Hub, then I take that image and run it in Caprover, so I get a faster build time. That's how I kind of do it. So I usually don't make Caprover build image. So I just have like a Git action that said anytime I do a pull request to the master branch, go get the image from Docker Hub. So what I do on my end, I push the image straight from Wappler into Docker Hub, build it there, and then just have that image ready and waiting for like when I push or pull to the master branch, then it builds the image in Caprover with Git action. So it's really powerful in that regard.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your comments. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'd like to throw the conversation then open to Wappler discussion. I'm
going to turn this back to you, Mark.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any comments, guidance, or feedbacks on the latest update that Wappler pushed out this week, yesterday?
None other than the database, shared database facility they put in. As you know, I tried that this morning. I was going to do a demo on that, and it wouldn't install on either Windows 10 or Windows 11. So I need to put in a bug report on that. So just to warn, if anybody is trying to use that shared database setup that they've added, certainly I've had problems on the Windows.
Thank you very much. Good input.
This is the first time I've not rushed in and uploaded or updated to the latest version. So I've got in the corner of my screen install update 5.8. There seems, I think, with all the big updates to version 6, there seems to be quite a lot going on, which is causing all kinds of issues. And I've got too many live projects, so I've just taken my foot off the gas slightly. And then seeing Brian's post this morning made me sort of think, I'm glad I did.
Yeah, just to follow on from that, John. I mean, as you know, I've sort of been off the map a little bit for the last 3 months. Quick update: I've moved house 6 times. Temporary moves. I'm finally settled in my new home, but there was problems with the purchase. So I've been hot desking through friends and going on holiday and you name it. I've had 2 cancer operations, plastic surgery, but I'm all sorted now. I'm back in the office and I'm back on the go. So like you, I actually haven't done anything on Wappler since early February. All I've done is updated my Surface Book a couple of times so that if a client contacted me and said, got a problem, I was able to do that. I've just literally set my office up on Tuesday, got big computer going, thought, all these updates seem to be hitting the maturity level. I'll risk going straight to the latest version. And yeah, the first thing I've tried to do hasn't worked. I'm quite sure that's not everything not working properly, but it was a little bit disappointing. I was quite excited about the idea of having this shared database for particularly for the PHP side of things. Now we've got an inbuilt PHP server. With having the inbuilt database, we can completely dump WAMP. And it's not that I use that platform a lot, but I do a lot of training with people. And their feedback is, oh, why can't we have this in a PHP platform? And we finally got it. But there's still some tweaking needs to be done there, obviously.
How do you load a back version? So if like 5.8 is out, if I wanted to load 5.7 now, how do you find that and do that?
You will need the link directly to it. The links are actually fairly straightforward. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but the only thing that changes the link is the version number. So you'll have something like, downloads.wappler /Windows /Wappler 13, 5.7.4 or whatever. If you can find an old link anywhere, it's very easy to customize it to pull any version. No, they are all sitting there on the server somewhere.
Yeah, but I honestly think they should give those links out. I mean, they should keep a list. I mean, when you go to GitHub, for example, when you download software, you have a list of prior versions for download. I mean, I don't understand the reasoning of. I mean, I understand. They want to capture emails for the download and everything on the latest link, but I still feel like old versions should be posted to the Wappler community forums, honestly.
Yeah,
because downgrading versions, I think, is like a pretty common thing that people need to do in a development environment.
I think that's fair enough going back, 3 or 4 versions, perhaps. I think the problem is we have some users that are still using version 3, version 4, and they're still pushing out bug reports and bug problems because their version 3.5 is not working properly. So I think it's getting that balance, isn't it, between supporting the Wappler team's ability to keep the product going by being on a reasonably up-to-date version, but allowing people to maybe backtrack 2 or 3 versions just if there's some new bug that's introduced with a new feature. So also, obviously, you've got to keep an eye on making sure that you're using either the stable channel or not, because some of these bugs are there if you turn off the development features.
And I think the other thing is if people go to the latest version and then roll back, you can gain issues where files have been updated in projects. You then go back to an earlier one. I think it's not so bad now because it's all managed by Wappler, but it can just introduce things that wouldn't have been there. So if you'd stayed on 5.7, for instance, and not updated at all, you wouldn't have issues. Whereas if you've gone to 5.8 and then go back to 5.7, you might have issues.
Right.
And I think they try and
I mean, that's what version
minimize
control's
that.
for.
Well, true.
But you know, I mean, at least from my use case, I mean, I'm working on a a major SaaS platform, and so stability is, you know, pretty important with what I have. I mean, I have you know, hundreds of customers that are we can't have downtime. And so if I upgrade versions and I deploy, you know, I mean, yeah, I try to, you know, push to staging whenever I get new versions and whatnot. But sometimes, you know, when you have a application of that scale, you can't always smoke test everything, you know, top to bottom. And so yeah, I've had on a couple occasions now. I mean, over the past few years, I've had to, you know, try to hunt down old binaries and everything, just to roll back to at least you know, a couple versions, just so that I can you know, redeploy back into production. So it's a search that I wish was a little bit easier.
I keep every version that comes out as part of the update process. I download and just stick it in a Google Drive. So I've got right back to version one beta, I think. So I could go back to any version, but I'm Mac based. So people have reached out to me in the past knowing that I keep everything, to say, oh, can I have this version? But I don't keep the Windows ones because I don't have Windows.
I do the same
Yeah,
thing.
my strategy is I usually stay like three or four major version behind. I never really jump on the dog one right away. I just like stay 3 major version behind, and then once I know everything is stable, then I'm like, all right, it's good to go. There's this one bug that I was watching, it's fixed. I'm gonna, but yeah, it's notorious in that way for sure. You know, like, oops, I want to roll back. Where do I go? But yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and I was
There's
more
too
on
many
the
nice features. That's the trouble.
yeah,
but
and I was
once
more to
you-
the end of 5.8's out now that we know that 5.7 and 5.6 was stable enough. I'd like to upgrade to 5.6, so to say. And like you said, like Brad said, I like to stay 2 to 3. Like to stay 2 to 3 versions behind. Sorry, don't have the technical knowledge you guys do to be the blazers in front of us. Thank you for that, but that's where I was kind of going with that request. So we'll have to save those links then. Thanks for that, Brian.
Well, but once you're happy that whatever version you're on is stable, whether it's 2 or 3 behind, do you then go and update old sites with the updated files, or just the current site you're working on? Let's say.
For me, it depends. Again, I'm not like Tom where I have hundreds of people looking at and doing that. I have a few clients with a few sites that I've just, you know, done some small stuff with. So I go back and update them once I know something's comfortable, and B, that I have time to go back and be prepared something blows up. But you do run into that situation of, did we go too far back? And is it going to blow up to the point of, you know, now I've got 2 days of troubleshooting to figure out what it was and staging. So that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm very much if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of person. If the site's running fine, then let's leave it alone. When I do the next update or change, then the site will get the update then. But I really wouldn't tend to step back to an old site and update it, because best case scenario is it still works. Worst case scenario is the update breaks it. I really don't see the benefit until you have to.
No, I don't update, and even if I do want to update it, I'll probably do it manually rather than probably update files, which will cause. If it's a simple thing, I'll just go and edit the files directly. I don't want it to be updated to the latest version necessarily. I mean, I have old sites which I've hardly touched for 10 years or 15 years. You know, that people are doing what people wanted, some old version. Oh, okay, I'll update the version of PHP occasionally, whatever. But basically, an occasion when I do have to tweak them, it's a bit of a pain because I've forgotten what I did 10 years ago, but essentially they work. But I don't want to fiddle with them. I can still run them in Wappler as long as I don't, because it's convenient to be able to manage the files, but I don't want Wappler doing anything to them. Or as the early versions it did, it was difficult not to get it to upload things and overwrite things and rewrite old PHP or comment things out, all sorts of things. But it's better than that now. But yeah, I have quite a few sites which are very old and still functioning, which I don't want to spend time on.
Yeah, I guess for me, it's all come down to strategy, right? I've never ever pushed anything directly from the Wappler deploy. I always like send it in GitHub and use some from action to just like deploy it on some server, because then I have kind of more control over the code. What can I change in the package and all that stuff. So I usually run on Docker, so I might be speaking kind of like foreign here. That's why I kind of love Docker, because it's just so much easier to just go look at the packages and the dependency and just like update the version from the package JSON or something like that. So it's much more simpler in that regard for me.
Right.
We just got a comment in the chat from Bob, who sent a link of Wappler version history. It's wappler.io/history. And it looks like it's got an entire tree back to 2.7.
Forgot, George, I think, posted about that a couple of weeks ago.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate the input.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, I did too. I kind of remember there was something, but that's cool.
Cool. That's all right. Awesome. So let me ask you folks that we've got a lot of talent on the call here today. Do a round robin and just shout out. What is your favorite feature of Wappler?
Yeah, it's really useful to know that's there. I've always just taken the standard link, Wappler.io, and then the path to the executable, and just edited it directly. But that's really useful to see that you can actually do it from a web page and get the full list.
Cool.
No, that looks like it's just a history. It doesn't look like it's an actual link to those versions.
No, but if you go to your account page and just right click and copy link to the current version, you can very quickly see in the path the version numbers. So if you want to go back to 4.9.1, you can.
Gotcha. Thank you.
So I think, Mark, to answer your question, what's my favorite thing about Wappler? Just not writing code, just like click around.
The low code aspect of it. Do you as you're developing, are you paying attention to the code that is being developed, or are you using the GUI?
Yeah, I pay 100% attention to the code at all time. I like to look at every single file if I can, mainly just by running a scan on it just to see, what vulnerability or what's going on. So, yeah, I do pay attention to the dependency and some of the packages that are used, So, yeah.
It's Wappler does a lot under the hood. Reminds me of, I was talking to an airline pilot the other day about the automation in the airline cockpit. And he said the most common phrase in an airline cockpit these days is, "What is it doing now?" Speaking of the autopilot. The clicking in Wappler, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes. So what, besides the low code, not writing code, what's your favorite features of Wappler?
I would say the repeat region database aspect of it, just just the ease of just like binding stuff. I really like the idea of that, and yeah. And then the other thing that I like is it's just really wide. You can just go in the backend, the service side, and just like do your own thing, whether it's standard or not standard. It just lets you do whatever, It's I like that about it. It's super wide, you know. Yeah.
I appreciate the aspect of being able to connect to a database and manipulate data just about any way that you want. And then using the repeat regions is also real popular for display.
Yeah, and also the API connection. That I would say is my number one favorite, just to like connect to any API out there and just, you know, get some JSON back. So yeah.
That is really powerful. Does anybody have a feature they'd like to see, or is anybody struggling with an item now that they'd like to discuss? Maybe somebody in the call could help. I see Ben coming back on.
PDFs, maybe.
Say again, Ben?
PDF, maybe.
What do you want to do with the PDF?
Well, with an e-commerce application, for instance, you can write the invoice in the PDF and send it as a thingamajig with the email.
I got attached with an email.
It's just one application. There are many others. I've got a site, for instance, that is used for what is it? Employee induction, and that spits out a list of what has been discussed and when it has to be renewed, and that's all in PDF format. It'd be great if Rappler had that as a native function.
Yes, there's some comments on that in the forum with some third-party pieces, but having a PDF, the file is the file would be potentially secured if it was built properly. So, we'll. Is there a feature request in the forum on that, Ben?
There is a feature request, yes. I have noticed, though, that with the latest version of PHP within Wappler, you can download
I think that's been one of the
widgets and things from in a similar manner to NPM. And in that, I saw that there is a thingamajig. Yeah, sorry, it's getting a bit late for me, and I just, fall half asleep.
Doing fine, Ben.
But you can download what is it, FPDF or something for PHP. So that'd be a great way to go for PHP. But for Node, there's nothing similar to that.
All right. Well, for what it's worth, on the forum, there's a section for feature requests, and if you're interested in this, or you can click on it and vote for the feature. I know the team pays attention to that, and you can also, if you have a suggestion on something that could make Wappler better for you, you can put that on the forum as well. The more votes it gets, the more it'll trickle up on their things to do list.
But
I think that PDF feature request is about the longest outstanding PDF feature request on the site, and it has a huge number of requests, but the team seem very much to take the attitude, well, it can be done through APIs easily now, so there's no need to build that into the functionality of Wappler.
That could be said for a few things, and they are native to Wappler, so that's no excuse. But as Brad said before, the thing that he likes is the API, and that's what really caught me back in the Dreamweaver days when we had the DMX zone extensions. Well, with the DMX zone extensions and Dreamweaver, it was virtually what Rappler is now, accepting that Rappler's gone way ahead from that. But yeah, that was a feature that I thought was brilliant. I loved it. Then the whole concept, like the front end is agnostic of what the back end does. It's just completely separated from each other. So if you're using a PHP backend, the front end wouldn't have a clue. And that's also a brilliant part of how Wappler works. Anyway, that's me. I was awake for a moment. Now I'm going back to sleep.
And
Have you recovered from the celebrations?
I've got another one tomorrow night.
just a month-long birthday celebration.
Tomorrow night's going to be a big party.
All right. Well, happy birthday from all of us around the world from Wappler.
Thank you.
You're an extraordinarily valuable member of this community, and we look up to you all the time for your guidance and support. Your videos on YouTube are just amazing. And I'd like to share with everybody that Ben is from down under in Australia, and it's got to be approaching 1 o'clock in the morning for him. So he's staying up crazy hours just so he can be with us today. And we really appreciate your effort. I miss the pajamas though.
Yeah, I've got the pajama pants on. You can't. Okay. But the only reason I'm here is I'm curious to see what the faces look like behind all of the things that go on in the forum. And it's great to see you all.
It's great to be together too. We have we've successfully, I think this is our 14th meetup. We started off with John Stanton from the UK, led us off last May, and we've been going strong month after month ever since. And I would like to say thank you for everybody that joined us today. Next month, we hope to have the meetup first. It will be the first Friday of next month. We hope to have a demonstration of how import Figma designs into Wappler, a solution developed by a Wappler for Wapplers. And if anybody has any thing that they would like to present or have something that they would like to learn, please feel free to reach out to me on the forum. I'm Mark 1 on the forum. And I want to, as we close out today, I want to thank everybody again for joining us and hope you have a wonderful rest of your days. Take good care, everybody, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you.